Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of Make Every Second Count Live. I am so excited about tonight because we're going to be learning the miraculous story of J Mac. And if you don't know who J Mac is, I'm going to ask you ahead of time so you can think about it. But who is your J Mac? Who is J Mac in your life? But I am so honored to have this person as a guest tonight, and I ask you guys if you would please share this episode out, invite all kinds of people to watch this episode. Just you can tag people in the comments, it doesn't matter, and make sure you give us all kinds of likes, hearts, frowny faces, cry faces. Heck, you can even give us angry faces. Just help us trick the algorithm on Facebook. But with no further ado, I would like to bring to the stage Coach. Hi, Coach.
Hi, Jeff. Nice to see you. Looking forward to it.
Great to see you, and I'm so honored that you took the time out of your busy evening to be here with me and my viewers.
My pleasure. Looking forward to it.
So, I'm going to ask you if you would introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are, where you're from, what you do, and more importantly, why you do what you do. I'm going to be inviting some people on my phone, so I am paying attention. I'm just looking down at my phone for a minute.
Sure. So I grew up in a suburb of Rochester, New York called Greece. I was the oldest of six children in a very athletic family. In fact, my father was my high school basketball coach. I got very much into basketball. Was a pretty good high school player. I thought I was going to be a great college player, and then I got cut from my college team. So that was a humbling experience. But I really wanted to stay in the teaching and coaching. I became a phys ed teacher and a coach, and my dream was to be a high school basketball coach at the varsity level. And actually got a head job at 25 years old at a school about 20 minutes from where I grew up. And I did so well, I led that team to 17 consecutive losses and losing my first job. But fortunately, I hung in there. I got an opportunity to become a head coach again. And then I got a chance to be called back to my hometown of Greece, New York. And for my last 27 years, I was a head coach at two of the local high schools in my own town. There were three high schools when I grew up, and I actually attended one and was the head coach at the other two. And I was going along pretty well and having some pretty good success, although we were struggling in our postseason tournament. We weren't able to win that tournament. And then I had a young man come into my program that I'm sure we'll get in because you mentioned about JMac, and we can delve into that a little bit deeper, and I can share that story as we can move forward here.
I look forward to hearing more about that because I am straight fascinated by the story of J Mac, and I don't know, I'm just interested to find out more. So coach, I have to ask, since I know that people have issues getting through life a lot of times because life has a tendency to put rocks in the way or put something in the way of you and your progress. So I I know that I don't know how I'm going to do this, but um so all right, I just tried to start the opposite way, and we had just talked about doing this differently. So this is going to be a different show tonight. You see, Coach here is going to tell us all about the story of J Mac, and then we're going to discuss that and the things that he learned from that. So, if you would like to take us through the story of J Mac, it would be pretty awesome.
Sure. So Jason McElwain came into our program in 2003. He was very small in stature. He was about 5'6", 90 pounds his sophomore year. And he tried out for our junior varsity team. I was the varsity coach. And after a few days of tryouts, my JV coach came to me and said, Coach, we have a young man named Jason McElwain. He's on the autism spectrum. He's learning disabled. He's very small in stature. He's not a very good athlete. So he doesn't meet one of our criteria for making the team. He doesn't have the basketball talent. But I'm telling you, the other criteria that we always talk about is that we over me. He puts the team first. He has great passion for the game of basketball, and he wants to be coached. And so I think we should keep him in the program. I said, well, great. And so what he got in mind, he says, I'm going to offer him the team manager's job. And that's what he did. And Jason was the team manager for the JV team, although he would sit on the bench during the varsity games. Although after the JV game, he'd be so excitable that he was pretty much disheveled after the JV game. And one of our varsity players would always go out and straighten his white shirt and black tie out and get him ready for the varsity game. And that's what he did. He was part of our team. And, you know, you talk about the rocks in the road. I had been a pretty successful coach, but we kept losing in our postseason tournament. And J-Mac's sophomore year was no different. We actually got to the sectional semifinals, our postseason tournament, for the 5th time in my career, and we lost again. So after that year, Jason came back. And what I was really impressed with him, I never had a player try out more than 2 times, and rarely would they ever come out a second year if they didn't make the team. But Jason not only wanted to come out, but he was willing to go to all our off-season workouts. And I was really getting to know him. I was picking him up at his house, and we were really developing this nice bond. He tries out for the team his junior year, and he's grown a little bit. He's up to about 5'8", maybe 100 pounds, but he's not good enough to make the team. But I said, Jason, I really admire your dedication and commitment, and I know you're a great teammate. So I want to offer you the team manager's job. And I'll tell you a quick story. So the first team meeting we had his junior year, when I walk in the room, he immediately raises his hand. He says, Coach. I said, yeah, J-Mac. He says, we know you haven't won a Section 5 championship. And I said, well, thanks, Jason, for the reminder. And he said, but this year, we're going to establish this mantra called stay focused. We're to help you win your first sectional championship. And I said, well, thanks, Jay. Well, we had another good season, Jason's junior year, and he served as our team manager. We got to the semifinals now for the 6th time in my career, and we lose at the buzzer to our crosstown rival. We're devastated this time. But again, I learned so much about perseverance from J-Mac, because he, again, came back and tried out again his senior, again, going to all our off-season workouts. In his senior year, when I brought him in the office during tryouts, I said, J-Mac, I got some good news and some bad news. And he says, Coach, give me the bad news first. And I said, well, unfortunately, you're still not quite good enough to make the team. And this time you could see he was visibly disappointed. His head dropped down. I said, but I do have some good news. His head popped up. He said, what do you got in mind? I said, well, for senior night, and he goes, I'm a senior. I go, I know. For senior night, I'm going to give you a uniform and hopefully get you in the game. And I kid people that periodically he would ask me about that uniform during the season. And of course, periodically, as I kid people, that for him meant every other day. He was pretty excited. Well, that year, we were expected to have a very good team. But after starting the year very well with 2 wins in an opening tournament, we ended up having a lot of adversity that divided the team. And for any of your listeners, if you've ever been on a team that didn't get along, it makes it very difficult. Even though this team was quite talented, because of the division and disarray, we lost 3 out of our next 5 games. And Jason was kind of our rock. He kept pushing everybody. And finally, we had kind of an epiphany moment. We had a big team meeting, and the players aired some things out, and we're in this championship game of this Christmas tournament against a team that was really good. And we almost beat them. And it really sparked us that showed if we came back together that we could be better than we've been playing. And that sparked us. We won 8 out of our next 9 games, which came into senior night, which was on February 15th. On February 13th, I gave Jason his first uniform. It was number 52. It was way too big. He didn't care. And he was excited. In fact, there was a rumor going around school that he slept in it for 2 straight nights. Well, February 15th was our senior night. And for your listeners that don't know, senior night in basketball is when we bring all our seniors out before the game and we honor them. We bring their parents or guardians out. But this night was profoundly special to see J-Mac, instead of in his white shirt and black tie, he's now donning number 52. And to see him embrace his parents in uniform is a memory I will always cherish. Well, the game begins. Do you want me to take you through the game?
Yep, please.
Okay, so the game begins, and it's there's all kinds of videos on it, but the one ESPN did is really powerful for your audience. And anyways, so at the opening tap, we had a really good student body following that year. They called themselves the Six Men, and they start chanting at it as the ball's being tossed up at the beginning of the game. We want J-Mac. We want J-Mac. I guess just in case I forgot. I had a couple of thoughts. Number one is, although I wanted to get Jason, I know I had to get all the other players in that had been normally playing on the team. And two, I wanted to get Jason with enough times to score a basket. After 3/4 of the game, I'd gotten everybody in but J-Mac. So with just over 4 minutes to go, I felt the time was right. I pointed at him. He nearly ran on the court. He was so excited. Then when he got on the court, I was deeply touched by what happened. What Jason and I didn't know, one of our parents had made these pictures, these placards of Jason's face and put them on paint sticks and gave them to our student body, the sixth man, and said, if Jason gets in the game, show these. So when he walks on the court, I did not know this. And our student body gives him a standing ovation. They show all these placards of Jason's face. I got so overwhelmed with emotion that I sat down, which I rarely did, and tears are actually just floating down my face. I'm profoundly touched. Now Jason's in his first varsity basketball game. The first time we get the ball, he gets a pass thrown to him in the right corner behind the three-point arc. He lets it go. The crowd stands in anticipation. It misses by like 6 feet. And I know you're not supposed to pray in the public schools, but I was praying, dear God, please help him get one basket. The next possession, he gets actually a much shorter shot from about 10 feet. And this time it hits the backboard, it hits the rim, and it falls off. And the crowd groans. I'm thinking, all right, God's starting to listen. We're getting closer. Our third possession, Jason shoots this time from the right wing, another three-pointer. And magic, it goes in. The place explodes. I'm thinking, God must be a basketball fan. Not only is Jason, he's got a three-pointer. It can't get any better than this, right? Well, for the next 3 minutes, Jason turned into his boyhood idol, the late, great Kobe Bryant. And he starts making shot after shot. And I got to fast forward and come back and finish the story. 5 months after that game, Jason is in Los Angeles at the ESPY Awards. He's up for the greatest sports moment of the year. And one of the other 4 finalists for that award was his idol, Kobe Bryant.
Oh, that's awesome.
Kobe had scored 81 points in an NBA game that year, and he ended up being one of the finalists, and Jason beat him out for the ESPY. Well, how did he do that? Coming back to the game after that first 3, he makes another 3. Then he makes a shot that his foot is on the line, so he has almost another 3. He misses a couple of shots, then he makes a couple. And the 2 things I'll never forget, with about a minute to go in the game, I get a tap on my shoulder. I'm sitting on the bench, tears still rolling down my face, and I look behind me, and it's J-Mac's mother, and she's bawling her eyes out, and she whispers in my ear, Coach, this is the best gift you've ever given my son. What would you have done? You heard that. I cried harder. Then how the game ends. With about 10 seconds to go, our opponent, Spencerport, and I want to give kudos to the players and their coach. They were great sports that night. They score, and our player takes it out of bounds and normally throws it to our point guard. This time he throws it right to J-Mac. So J-Mac's dribbling down the court. You see the clock ticking down, 6, 5, 4. All of a sudden, Jason's dribbling down, and he pulls up like 2 feet behind the arc, almost an NBA 3. I'm thinking, Jason, don't shoot from there. It's way too far. He launches this rainbow. Swish. I look over. Our student body runs on the floor. Our players run on the floor. I'm thinking, oh, my gosh, I'm living the movie Rudy, but this is really true.
Yeah.
Then our players put Jason up on his shoulders, and he's got the game ball over his head. And at this point, I have no idea how many points he has. And our public address announcer comes on and says, the leading scorer for the Trojans, our team nickname, J-Mac with 20 points. So he literally scored 20 points in less than 4 minutes.
Wow.
To wrap the story up by saying that we after that, it exploded around the world, and we had a lot of media attention. But Jason's dream, and he had to go back as our team manager. You talk about commitment to the team, and he embraced that because his major goal, he wanted to help us win our Section 5 championship. And actually 3.5 weeks after that game, we played in the championship game at our arena downtown in front of about 10,000, a sold-out crowd. And we won in a close game to win our first Section 5 championship. So that was kind of the cherry on top of the JMAC game.
That is awesome. Now, I know I had to ask you before the show about if J-Mac making the team was something you did out of pity. And you told me that he had 3 of the 4 things that you looked for, correct?
Right.
And can you explain that a little bit more? Because I want everybody to actually understand that.
Yeah, well, one of my presentations is called Who's Your JMAC? And one of the things that in making sure that you have inclusion and making people feel included is I believe you have to have criteria of how you pick your team. And what you decide for your criteria is up to you. But we had 4 things. One was that we wanted people that obviously had talent in basketball. Number 2 is we wanted what we call we over me people. We wanted people to put the team first. The third thing is we wanted people that we felt were passionate about basketball. They loved the game. They wanted to be in the gym. And the fourth thing is we wanted them to have what we called the CANI, which is constant and never-ending improvement. We wanted people that wanted to commit to be the best they could be and wanted to be coached. And J-Mac had those final 3. And he didn't have great basketball talent, but because he had those 3 in such a high level, our JV coach thought he could be a real help to our program, and he certainly was. He served as our team manager for 3 years and was very important. In fact, he came back after he graduated from high school. A couple of years later, he came back as my volunteer assistant for my last 9 years, and we ended up winning 4 more championships together. As I kid people, so for a small fee, I will rent him out to you. He's a good luck charm for me.
Woo! I'm gonna have to rent him now because that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, what is J-Mac up to these days?
Well, he had bad news, good news. The bad news is about 2 months ago, he got in a pretty serious accident. He was on his bike and he actually ran into a car and flipped over and had a pretty serious accident. He broke 9 ribs and his collarbone punctured a lung and had a fractured jaw. Fortunately, he has recovered and he really is back pretty much full speed. He's back running. And a little sidelight I'd like to give, you talk about how you can use things in your life. And J-Mac started to really understand the power of commitment. Well, I'll share 2 things is that after that season, he had a growth spurt and he grew like 5 inches. Right now, if you saw Jason, that game, he was probably 5'9", 110 pounds. He's now about 6'2", 170 pounds. And he's gotten so much bigger and stronger. But he was actually a runner in high school. And when he was helping me coach, he came in one day to the office and said, "Coach, I really love coaching. Thank you for having me on your staff." And I said, "Well, it's great to have you every day." And he says, "But I really miss competing myself. I'm going to get back into running." I said, "Well, what do you got in mind?" He says, "I'm going to run the Rochester Marathon." And of course, we always talk to our players about goals. I said, "Well, Jay, what's your goal for the Rochester Marathon?" And he says, "I want to qualify for the Boston Marathon." And I said, "Well, I was a runner. I have not run marathons, but I knew enough about running." And I said, "Well, Jason, what's the qualifying time for your age for the Boston Marathon?" He goes, 2 hours and 58. I'm sorry, 3 hours and 5 minutes was the qualifying time. I said, "Jason, that's really fast." He says, "I know. I'm training with Coach Shoemaker, who was our cross country coach." How about he runs his first Rochester Marathon in 3 hours and 1 minute? He qualifies for Boston. The ironic thing is he decides he wasn't ready, so he doesn't go that next year, which crazy was the year of the Boston Marathon bombing. So
Well, good thing he didn't go.
yeah, exactly. So he actually requalifies, breaks 3 hours and 30 seconds, goes to Boston. So I said, Jay, man, what's your goal for Boston? He says, I'm going to break 3 hours. I said, uh, I'm telling you, Jay, Boston's a tougher course than Rochester. And he says, I know, I've upgraded my training. The great thing is that you got to keep pushing yourself. In the first Boston Marathon, he runs it in 2 hours, 58 minutes, and 46 seconds. He
Wow.
So that's just really the power of goal setting and putting your mind and then putting the work in. You got to put your work in to do that. And, I want to share one other thing, Jeff, that I think is really powerful from the story back to the JMAC game is that, we always talk about we over me, and you talk about the essence of teamwork that night. I had never asked the players on the court that night to pass Jason the ball, but out of their own hearts, they ended up passing the ball to him every time. And
That's great.
that was just something that I will cherish for the rest of my life. Although I still see Jason a lot, and I kid him all the time. I said, Jason, I'm still looking for your first assist. You never passed the ball once. It really goes to show, one of the things we talk about in being an effective leader is the ability to shine the light on other people, and certainly his teammates shine the light on him that night.
Yeah, that is so inspirational. I thank you so much for telling this story because I think it can truly help out the world, and the world is in a really crappy place right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have to ask, Coach, is what kind of adversity do you think J Mac had to face when he kept coming back to those tryouts, when he kept getting denied when trying out, when he, even in life in general, what kind of things do you think held him back or tried to hold him back, as it seems?
Well, I think, you certainly could look at some of the things like his disability, in fact, that he was on the autism spectrum and he's learning disabled. But Jason really looked at it, is that he was like everybody else. He had challenges like everybody else. And the fact that I think what we can really, a great takeaway is the fact that, you know what, you can put a lot of time and effort in, like Jason did, and not get the results you absolutely want all the time. That's the reality of life. But the thing that I think is the bonus or learning piece here is that despite his sophomore year not making the team, his junior year not making the team, but then, when you keep at it and you show people that you're a great teammate and you can add value in other ways, then people will open some doors for you. And that's what I felt is like, what, this kid has made so much of a commitment in our program. I got to do something to help him out. And, that's why I said I wanted to give you a uniform because I recognize your time, your effort, your energy, your enthusiasm for our program. And this is a way that I could give him something back. And then, I think another thing we can really take away is that you know what? I certainly can't ever say that we're always going to have someone score 20 points in 4 minutes. That's why my book is called "The Coach and a Miracle" because those don't happen very often. But you know what? I think a great lesson we can all learn from is when you put the work in and you have the proper attitude and mindset. That you know what, you can do a lot more than people think you can. And J-Mac was a great illustration on what happened that night.
So, do you think the attitude and his outlook on life helped him in the long run?
Absolutely. He always was someone that came in with a positive attitude, and he would get frustrated like everybody else. He's far from perfect, but you know what? He was resilient. He just would keep trying and keep working at it, and with the idea that he was not going to give up on himself. And too often. In fact, I've said this, and I'll bring this up now, is that, when the first shot he took in the game, he missed by a mile. I mean, it was an air ball extraordinary. And you know what? And I challenge people all the time. How many times when you get into something new and you try it for the first time and it goes poorly, you fail miserably, how many people just give up? And that wasn't Jason. He didn't give up. He ran back on defense and said, you know what, I'm going to give it another chance. And he missed again, although this time it got closer. But, those are the things that, we all can learn from, is that, failure is you either quit or you learn and you move forward. And Jason was a great example. He had that growth mindset that he was going to continue to learn and move forward.
That is fantastic. I love hearing the story of resilience. That just makes my whole night. But I have to ask, are there, say, like 3 points that you think the J-Mac story brings up that people should learn?
Well, I think the first one we certainly, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think the power of perseverance is one, is the ability that you're not going to give up. That never give up mindset is so powerful. Number two is that he always brought that team first, so he was always doing extra to give to his teammates, to add value. He's one of the guys that always came early to practice. He would go over and work with his teammates. He would rebound for them. He'd stay after practice. So he was someone that was always going the extra mile to help and serve other people. I think that's another great lesson. And then his desire to be the best that he could be, and that his work ethic was going to be second to none. You know what? In some areas, he wasn't as talented. But then, as you see after high school, when he grew quite a bit, that, he ended up, he's become an excellent runner. And, in high school, he was physically not very strong. So he was just an okay runner, but he stayed with it, and he's just got this attitude and this mindset that I'm going to keep getting better. And he proved that, not only in that game, but a lot of things he's doing in life now.
That is wonderful. I thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy evening. Again, I know I've said it and said it and said it again, but I truly do appreciate it, because you're helping add value just like J-Mac did. So I have to ask, Coach, you talked about a book earlier. How can people get a hold of that book if they want to read it?
Sure. So you know what, I love trying to help people. One of my goals now, I have my own podcast called the Limitless Leadership Lounge, where we try to help young and emerging leaders. But to answer your question specifically, I'm going to give them. You can go to my website, coachjimjohnson.com, and that is on that you can order the book. We have a free newsletter. We have a free blog that we do every week that you can sign up, and you can also see about our podcast. And if anyone would ever like to bring me in on one of my presentations, all that information is there. And you know what? Something I've been doing recently, I also, if people want to reach out to me, I will also give you my personal cell phone, and that number you can put in the show notes or whatever, but it's 585 764
I'm not putting this in the show notes. I'll let people rewatch it and rewatch it and rewatch it again, but I'm not giving out your number.
Okay, well, thanks. But yeah, I'm not afraid to have people reach out to me if I can help them in some way. So,
well, that is phenomenal, I have to say. So, is there any contact information that I can pass along to people, but not your phone number, because I'm
sure.
not giving that out?
Yeah, you can actually, my email as well. There is an email on the website, but I'll give my personal email. Is jjhoops, jjhoops at rochester.rr.com, rochester jim.rr.com. And if people would like to reach out to me, I'm open to getting emails. And there's information you can contact myself and my manager on our website as well, which is coachjimjohnson.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great evening. This show was amazing. And I added the link to the Facebook and the YouTube for the JMac story. So, guys, go check it out and you'll love it. I promise. All right. Thank you again, Jim. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Jeff. It was great to talk to you and be part of your show. And I look forward to growing our relationship and staying together. So.
All right. Well, everybody out there, including you, Jim, have to do me a favor this week, next week, and for the rest of your life. You need to make every second count. Why, you might ask? Because you never know when the seconds are going to run out on your one life. I'll see you guys back here next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And until then, make every second count. Thanks again, Jim.
Thank you.